Welcome back to KansasCityAfterHours.com. It is another webisode, another riveting webisode, and I always like when I find stories like this, and I did this on my own. I didn't even need one of my producers to find this. This young lady sitting next to me.
Oh, he said young. Thank you.
Yes, her name is Vicki Smith. If you don't know her, she's probably put you in jail. No, I don't know about that, but she is a partner at Stinson, Morrison & Hecker, okay? But that's not why she's here. She is absolutely one of the best photographers I've seen in this town. And welcome to the program.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, it's a pleasure to have you. And so I always am curious about duality. You know, we have our profession, our vocation, and then we have the passion. Sometimes they intersect. Sometimes your vocation, you're passionate about it, and then you have this other thing over here. What is it with you?
Actually, I have two passions.
Okay.
I actually really enjoy the law. I practice, as you said, at Stinson Morrison Hecker.
You're a partner.
I'm a partner at Stinson Morrison Hecker. It's a venerable old Kansas City firm, been around since 1878. It is a phenomenal place to be able to work. To have the opportunity to be a partner there has been an incredible thing. I've worked on amazing cases nationwide. I've probably had cases in over 26 states. I've had big cases, small cases, represented huge companies in antitrust litigation and intellectual property litigation, like patents and the like, and that's great. But it's not very artistic.
No.
And I like artistic.
So you can't be
very
creative in arguing the cases in a certain level?
You can be creative. It's very intellectually creative, and you can think about visuals on how to get your point across to either a judge or a jury that you go along with it. So there's a lot of creativity that way, but it doesn't have the real true visual aspect. It's much more just intellectual in your head. And I love taking light, shaping it, and creating an image. And it just is really incredibly pleasurable to me.
When did you start?
My parents gave me my first camera when I was about 3. It was a little brownie. You remember those things that you roll the film around
you
and all
wind
that?
it up, yeah.
And so when we would be allotted our rolls of film that we would get to use on the big family vacation, because little kids like to snap pictures. And so I've always loved it. In 2006, I decided to become serious about it again at various times, and I switched to digital. I shoot Nikon, and it's just really wonderful, absolutely wonderful.
As I'm going to relate this to when I was a recording artist, we used to record on 1-inch tape, analog.
Right.
And the switch from analog to digital was extremely tough for us because there was a certain level of warmth that we lost in the recordings that only analog could give you. It's kind of like playing a phonograph versus a CD. I like the bacon sometimes. I want to hear a record sometimes. So was that a hard switch from going to film to digital?
It is a little bit. I mean, there are things about film that gives it a certain look, but with digital, the real beauty of it is that instead of either choosing Velvia or whichever film you have for the feel, you actually can change your film in your camera anytime by how you set the camera. And once you learn how to use kind of the fourth dimension of photography, the white balance, you really, digital opens up so much more, and you just have the ability to really interact. If you're shooting models, they can see right away what you're doing, and they can understand when you're saying, no, really turn your head like this, trust me. And you can whip around in what you're getting, and they'll get excited. When they see images that they look super sharp in, it gives extra energy. And I think with film, you didn't have that interaction.
One of the things I noticed about your work is the vividness of the color.
I love color.
I mean, you blast it out. Not in a, sadistic way where it's just all good, but it reminded me of, if you can understand this, remember when The Wonderful World of Disney would come on? And with the peacock.
That's right.
And the vividness of the colors and they would always say, in color. It had the same effect on my eyes. That's the information that it gave me back, was that Technicolor type of when Wizard of Oz goes from black and white to color. Is that a good depiction of what you look for?
It is. I really, I can do black and white, and I do sometimes do black and white, but I like the high contrast black and white. When it comes to color, believe it or not, even though I shoot digital, I do very little post-processing. I try to, that's as I shoot most of them in the camera.
Wow.
I do a little bit, obviously, if you're shooting a landscape and it's a long exposure, you have to do certain things to take the grain out
Sure.
that comes from the digital noise. And with a model, they always want perfect skin.
Right.
So there's some things you have to do, but when it comes to the colors, in large part, that's as shot, because I just have my settings on my camera to be like a Velvia film, or a really vivid, bold film, and I just love being able to shape the light to get that impression across.
So what do the partners think about this? Say, what do they think? Well, Vicki, are you taking pictures again today, or what are we?
Actually,
what are you doing now with these cameras? What is this stuff you do?
A lot of lawyers are frustrated photographers that they were on like yearbook staff in high school is kind of a bet of mine, because they all seem to be really interested in the photography. And I usually take a couple exciting trips a year, someplace to do photography with photography friends of mine, and people always want to know where's my next place I'm going and what am I shooting. So
Wow. So you'll shoot anybody if somebody calls you?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so do you do weddings?
I've been doing I do kind of photojournalistic second shooting kind of things at weddings. I'm going to plan to do a little bit more, but I do bridal portraits, in separate environmental portraits and stuff, which I think is a place people really need to think about, so they have that perfect mantle.
Yeah, because you don't strike me as like the wedding photographer.
No, I'm not. I don't do it very much.
Okay, so but I mean, candids or like you said, photojournalistic documentation of the,
which I like very much.
Yeah,
the grandma stand here is not really my thing.
Right, I agree. That's not your deal. Well, okay, so if somebody wanted to, were interested in looking at your work,
yes,
where would they go?
www.vickismithphotography.com. That's V-I-C-K-I, but you all know how to spell Smith.
Except if you're Patty Smythe.
Okay, then Vicki Smith, S-M-I-T-H, photography.com. Or you can get me at vickismith@AOL.com is an email address. You can reach me for my photography.
Great. Well, it's a pleasure meeting you.
Absolute pleasure.
I love the duality. I love that. I would not want to see you in the courtroom either. You look really formidable. Like,
Thank you.
Vicki Smith of Vicki Smith Photography.
Thanks.
You're watching KansasCityAfterHours.com.